Yeah.
I call the September 12th, 2023 work session to order. Mr. Reese, roll call, please.
Councilmember Farrell. Here. Councilmember Falconham.
Here.
Councilmember Garcia. Councilmember Homa.
Here.
Mayor Knapper.
Here.
Councilmember Maddox.
Here.
Councilmember Page.
Here.
Mayor Knapper, we have a quorum.
Thank you. May I have a motion to excuse Councilmember Garcia?
Make a motion to excuse Councilmember Garcia. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. I know those. May I have a motion to amend the agenda?
Make a motion to amend the agenda. Second.
All right, so Jackie, we're permitted to have a discussion about.
You need to state what the motion to amend is and then have a discussion about it.
Okay, so may I have a motion to amend the agenda to include a discussion regarding the Route 66 event on September 16th?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add a discussion about the Route 66 event, September 16th. Second.
Okay, now let's have a discussion about that. So any discussion, really? We're going to amend the agenda to include that. So let me ask this question, Jackie. Now we're in a kerfuffle. My question is, we have a motion to amend the agenda for inclusion of a discussion, but then I would like to also table some items on the agenda to a later date. Does that need to be included in the same motion?
The motion separately.
Okay, I'll do it separately.
I would-
Awesome sauce. All right. So any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, sorry, Sean. I'll make sure that I wait.
No worries.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so that motion carries. The agenda is amended to include a discussion about the Route 66 event that is on September 16th. May I have a motion to amend the agenda to table discussion of item number 4, 6, 8, and 9?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to table items number 4, number 6, number 8, and number 9. Second.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. So now our agenda contains item number 5, which is discussion of prepayment of general obligation bonds. Item number 7, discussion of ordinance section 12-117B. And then I guess it's not a number, but the amendment that we just made regarding Route 66. And I will just ask our Madam Clerk to work her magic to work that out for us, please, regarding like the numbers.
Okay,
All right, so at this time, Mr. Reese, I will turn it over to you for item number 5, discussion of the prepayment of general obligation bonds.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, just a few comments. So, and I'm gonna turn over to our Finance Director. So Finance Director Lexi Miller will provide a recommendation related to the prepayment of general obligation bonds and how that affects the tax rate. And that recommendation is what is included in the proposed tax rate ordinance, which is to be considered at the regular city council meeting later this evening. So Lexi is going to provide us with a short presentation now that she has prepared. So I'm going to turn it over to her. And you have
Yes,
the rights, correct?
yes. So, do you see this on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay. So you all should have a copy of this as well up there, so that way you guys can follow along, because some of it might be hard to read. So tonight we're going to just discuss the prepayment of the general obligation bond. As we had discussed, we had earlier authorize the city manager to prepay up to $420,000 in general obligation bonds. And we had, at that time, we said we'd have a work session to discuss exactly how much. So that's what we're doing tonight. So a little background on the bonds in general. The estimated fund balance for the general obligation bond account as of December 31st, 2023 will be approximately $524,605. And the reason why that's an approximate number and not an exact number, we do have a bond payment that we make, but we will receive taxes that will be paid before the end of the fiscal year or before the end of the calendar year. So I don't know exactly how much we'll receive, but this is a pretty good estimate based on prior years. So that's why we're using this number. The funds that are in that we collect can only be used to pay off general obligation bond debt. So that's the only thing we can use it for. So we unfortunately can't use it for anything else. And the city has a required bond payments of about $400,000 annually. That is both the principal and the interest that we have to pay every year. So our principal kind of rocks right around $340,000, and then the interest kind of goes anywhere from like 69,000 to like 45,000, depending on the year, because it's an amortization schedule. So that's just a little bit of history about the bonds if you weren't previously familiar. So what I was going to recommend tonight is that we do prepay all $420,000 in general obligation bonds no later than December 31st, 2023. The debt service tax rate at that time then would be 28 cents, which is what I have in the tax rate ordinance that was already forwarded to council. I believe this is a good amount to pay off, and the reason why I'm recommending it, the estimated fund balance after prepayment would be about $104,605. I believe that that is a sufficient fund balance should for some reason our tax receipt collection rate dip below our historic averages. We average historically about 97%. Last year, we were over 100% collection. So we've gotten some prior back taxes collected. So we really collect all of our property taxes. We don't have a lot of people that are in arrears. So we know we're going to collect our taxes generally. People pay their bills. So that's a good thing. So we don't need to have a really hefty fund balance because people pay their taxes. If for some reason the council would like to do a different amount, I would recommend at a minimum paying the $369,303 no later than December 31st. That would make the debt service tax rate about 0.2610 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. That would work. We would still have an estimated fund balance of $148,334. So we'd have an even larger fund balance. And we could do that. And we could do any other number that you all wanted. But my personal recommendation is the $420,000. Obviously, it's up to council to whatever number you want, and I can adjust the rate to whatever you want. We did have to prepare the ordinance for tonight's first and second readings. The ordinance will be adjusted after tonight's meeting, regardless either way, because the final reading will have the post Board of Equalization numbers. We get those numbers about September 15th of every month of every year. When we get those numbers, those are the numbers we have to use in setting our tax rate by the state auditor. So once we get those numbers, there'll be a slight tweak anyway. So if you all want me to change it to anything else, I can do whatever the council pleases. Okay.
Okay, thank
If you
you.
have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I know. Okay, so Councilmember Falkingham.
Yep.
I have a thought on what I would like to see the tax rate at, but because I know I tease you, you are a residential historian. I'd like to hear your thoughts first, if that's okay. If not, then I can definitely give mine, whatever you like.
Yeah, I mean, we, under another mayor, we continue to cut our tax rate for 4 years in a row. And I think that kind of put us in or has helped put us in a very precarious, not precarious, but we're struggling a little bit with the budget just to make sure we keep balance. And I think that any move back in the right direction would be great, because 28 cents on 100 is not a lot for most people to handle. So I think it's like 40 or 50 bucks a year or something like that. I can't remember.
Thank you. I agree. I would support the tax rate being the 28 cents. What do my colleagues say, I think? Yeah. 21, I believe, is that correct?
Actually, currently we are at, hold on. We are currently at 0.2010. And Mr. Councilman Falconham was correct. If you had a $300,000 home, the 28 cent increase would be $45 a year.
We're looking at the real estate market, but okay, yeah. Okay.
So I think we're good to go. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
When is the next payment due? So if we pay this in December, when will we be required to make another minimum payment
In March.
in March?
Yes.
And we will have enough money in the fund balance to
Yes.
make that minimum
Mhm.
payment in March.
Mhm. Yeah.
We're good.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
All right, item number 7, discussion of ordinance section 12-117B. And then section 602.1 facilities required. So I received a call from a reporter, an investigative reporter, and she was doing a story on the heat wave and how it was affecting people in the community. And so she took notice of our tenant bill of rights, and she was contacting me to see if the bill of rights contained air conditioning. And I went into the bill of rights that we have for our tenants, and then I went to the this section 12-117 that's cited in our tenant bill of rights, and I looked through it, and there is no mention of the air conditioning, but there is mention of heat. And of course, you know, it gets extremely cold in the wintertime, so it's just, it's, you know, at that time when they were like, hey, this needs to be required, it was just common sense, right? But now we're dealing with climate change, and we have heat advisories during the summer that's like, it seems to be continuous. We also have we had heat waves, at least 3 of them. And the reporter told me that there was an elder person that suffered 3 heat strokes because their rental unit did not have air conditioning in it, no HVAC unit and no window units. And so thankfully, the elder was able to go to a nonprofit in the city to get an air conditioning unit, and he's using that now. But I just didn't like to hear that the onus was on him to make sure that he could be safe in his home when it's hot. And so what I would like to do is respectfully request that council consider and agree to amend this ordinance to include air conditioning. So what say you?
Considered and agreed.
I thought it said heating and cooling. I guess I need to read that again, but.
Yeah, I went to it because she wanted to highlight the tenant bill of rights. And I was like, well, let me see, because I don't want to say something and it's not right. And I went and looked it up and it wasn't there. And so I thanked her for that, for pointing that out, because I would have never thought of that. So I thanked her for that. And yeah, so if that's all right with you, if Mr. Reese, if you, well, let me just make sure that is okay with everyone before I proceed. Good, okay.
Good by me.
Okay, great. Mr. Reese, would you talk with Mr. Traxler about including language that requires air conditioning into this ordinance?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
We did discuss this in anticipation of council moving forward on this, so this is an easy change to make and something that we're supportive of.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you all. Last item is the discussion on Route 66 and Councilmember Correll, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, so I wanted to bring this up because it had come to my attention that there was some things that I wasn't aware of with the Route 66 history. And after being made aware of some of these things, it's caused me to think about the event that we're having and how we can do better to just tell both sides of that story. And Chastity, if you don't mind, you had a great idea on how to deliver that message. Would you mind, or I can?
So at our retreat, Mayor brought up that, historically, Black people were not allowed to travel certain historic roads like Route 66, and they were given, forgive me if I'm wrong, is it a green book?
Yeah.
It was called a green book that African-American people were given to basically, it was, between them to know where they could go that was safe for them to stop and inclusive for them to stop, where their family could stop and enjoy a meal or get gas or whatever it was back in those days. So when Matt brought that up, that, that this may be triggering to people of color, at first I was kind of like, oh, but then I thought about it and, instead of just shutting everything down or trying to cancel the event, why don't we educate people? Because until Mayor had mentioned that at retreat, I never knew there was such a book. And I've learned a lot about Black history throughout my years, and I never knew that such a thing existed. So why don't we be proactive instead of reactive and have some kind of information, some kind of resources to where books, links to where people can understand that Route 66 wasn't always this way, but we're rewriting history now. And, that would be a good way to educate people, number one, and just be proactive instead of reactive to every little thing, kind of, you know what I'm saying? So I just felt like that was a better solution because I did not know. And Matt expressed the same thing. We never learned anything like that. And I think a lot of people don't know. So if we could have some kind of table or booth that says we're honoring people of color and their travels, and maybe we could share stories or links to stories. I'm just throwing ideas out. I know it's very soon, the event's coming up, but I feel like this is something we could do easily.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I'd just like to interject. I was gonna share this with the mayor via email, but I did not realize this was going to be added to the agenda, but I'll share. Building on what Councilmember Maddox said, Laura Miller sent me an email yesterday, and she's been researching the Green Book, and she feels like she has enough content to add to the Route 66 page of the website to share information about the Green Book, number one. And then number two, she can contact the library if you all are interested in this, to see if they have any materials they could display at their booth on Saturday. So we can initiate that if you think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Thank you for you guys being ahead of that already. That's amazing. That pretty well gets us covered. I think that's going to be a great addition. So thank you.
We're all on the same page, didn't even know it, but that sounds great. Yeah. You, Mayor, is that?
I think that's awesome.
You,
Yeah,
Mayor?
man, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you both. I appreciate it. Because I will just tell you, sometimes I appreciate y'all. Sometimes it's nice to have someone else listen and then push it forward. Because I'm not gonna lie, I get tired. So thank y'all for caring and saying like, no, we need to do this. Thank you all.
Yep, and thanks for sharing that with us. Honestly, I think that's a big thing for me. I didn't know, right? And that was the experience for me, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. So keep doing that, please.
Just to add, I was worried this conversation was going to go to let's not do it. And I think we, Maplewood, America, we got to find a way to reconcile like the things we're not proud of with the things we are. talk, and I'm just so, this is one of those Maplewood leading the way, so. Way to go, guys. I'm very proud of.
Okay.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 That motion carries. We are adjourned.